Have you ever wondered how the American presidency started and how it evolved over time? The genesis of the American presidency takes us back to the year 1789, when George Washington, a landowner and military general, took the oath as the first president of the United States. In a fledgling nation, just out from under British rule, the presidency wasn't just a role. It was the cornerstone of a new form of government, a republic where power was vested in the citizens who were governed. The challenge was monumental. There were no precedents, no guidebooks to follow. The Constitution provided a skeletal framework, but it was up to Washington to flesh it out. How he navigated his presidency would set the course for those who followed in his footsteps, and set the course he did. One of the most impactful precedents Washington established was the two-term limit for presidents. He voluntarily stepped down after 2 terms in office, setting a standard for political power's peaceful transition that endures today. Washington wasn't alone in his landowning profession among early presidents. Thomas Jefferson, James Madison, James Monroe, they were all primarily landowners, often managing plantations. However, the profession of lawyer also began to emerge as a common pathway to the presidency. John Adams, the second president, was a lawyer, as was his son, John Quincy Adams, the sixth. As we move further into the 19th century, we saw the presidency continue to evolve, shaped by the men who held the office and the historical events of their time. The American presidency isn't just about the individual in the office. It's about the people they represent, the ideals they uphold, and the vision they have for the nation. From the humble beginnings of a new nation, the presidency was a role that would shape the course of American history. As we delve deeper into this journey, we'll explore how political parties developed, how war impacted the presidency, and how the office has transformed into its modern form. So, stay tuned as we continue to unravel the fascinating story of the American presidency. Did you know that America's political landscape was not always dominated by 2 parties? In fact, the early years of the United States were characterized by a political landscape that was in constant flux. First, there were the Federalists and the Democratic Republicans. The Federalists, led by Alexander Hamilton, advocated for a strong central government, while the Democratic Republicans, led by Thomas Jefferson, favored states' rights and agrarianism. However, the Federalists eventually faded into obscurity, and the Democratic Republicans split into 2 factions: the Democrats and the National Republicans. The Democrats, led by Andrew Jackson, championed the common man, while the National Republicans, later known as the Whigs, promoted modernization and economic protectionism. The Whigs, though, would not last. Shattered by internal divisions over slavery, the party dissolved, giving rise to the Republican Party in the mid-19th century. The Republicans, with Abraham Lincoln at the helm, opposed the expansion of slavery and championed industrialization. This marked the beginning of the 2-party system we know today, with the Democrats and Republicans as the main players. However, the ideologies of these parties have shifted significantly over time. During the late 19th and early 20th centuries, for instance, the Democrats were the conservative party, advocating for states' rights and opposing civil rights for African Americans. The Republicans, on the other hand, were the progressive party, pushing for civil rights and economic reform. This changed in the mid-20th century during what is known as the Southern Realignment. Southern Democrats, opposing their party's support for civil rights, began to defect to the Republican Party, which was becoming more conservative. This shift culminated in the 1960s, when the Democrats, under Lyndon B. Johnson, pushed through landmark civil rights legislation, firmly establishing themselves as the Progressive Party. So, the next time you cast your vote, remember this: the political parties of today are not static entities. They have evolved, and continue to evolve, in response to the changing needs and values of the American people. As the country grew and changed, so did its political parties, reflecting the evolving values and priorities of the American people. How have wars influenced the presidency and the course of American history? This question opens a vast panorama of events that have shaped the United States and its leadership. Wars, more often than not, act as defining moments in a presidency, testing the mettle, resolve, and leadership of those in the Oval Office. Take, for instance, the Civil War, a conflict that threatened to tear the nation in 2. It was under President Abraham Lincoln's leadership that the Union persevered. Lincoln's presidency was defined by this war, his Emancipation Proclamation, and his relentless pursuit of unity. His decisions during this tumultuous time left a profound impact on American society, abolishing slavery and redefining the nation's identity. Fast forward to the 20th century, and we find President Franklin D. Roosevelt at the helm during World War II. Roosevelt, already grappling with the Great Depression, had to steer the nation through another colossal crisis. His presidency was marked by the implementation of the New Deal domestically and the decision to enter the war following the attack on Pearl Harbor. These decisions not only shaped his presidency but also significantly altered American foreign policy and society. The Vietnam War, too, left an indelible mark on the presidencies of Lyndon B. Johnson and Richard Nixon. This war, controversial and divisive, led to widespread social unrest and changes in foreign policy. It tested the leadership of these presidents and significantly influenced their time in office. Each of these wars and the presidents who navigated them have left a lasting legacy on the United States. They have shaped domestic policies, influenced foreign relations, and left a lasting impact on American society. War, while destructive and tragic, has often acted as a catalyst for change, for better or worse. War has often been a crucible for presidents, testing their leadership and shaping their legacies. As we delve deeper into the history of American presidencies, we'll continue to see how various events, decisions, and crises have defined the men who have held the highest office in the land. What defines a modern American president, and how has the role evolved in recent decades? This question leads us into the intricate world of the modern presidency. The powers and responsibilities vested in the American president have grown significantly over time. In the modern era, the president is not just a political leader, but a global figure, carrying the weight of the world's largest economy and one of the most influential nations on their shoulders. From George Washington to Joe Biden, the role of the American president has evolved significantly. Today, the president is expected to handle national and international affairs, manage the economy, lead military operations, and even shape the moral tone of the nation. Recent decades have seen presidents making decisions that have changed the course of history. For instance, President Barack Obama's decision to sign the Affordable Care Act into law in 2010 expanded healthcare coverage to millions of uninsured Americans. Or consider President George W. Bush's decision to launch the War on Terror following the tragic events of September 11, 2001. These moments underscore the profound impact that presidential decisions can have on the nation and the world. The role of media and public opinion in shaping the presidency has also grown in importance. With the advent of television and later the internet, presidents are now under constant scrutiny and have to manage their image and message with great care. Social media platforms have become a new frontier for engaging citizens, influencing public opinion, and even announcing policy decisions. Today's presidents must also navigate complex global issues, from climate change to cybersecurity threats, from international trade disputes to global pandemics. These challenges require not only political acumen but also a deep understanding of science, economics, and international relations. In a rapidly changing world, the role of the American president continues to evolve, reflecting the complexities of modern leadership. The modern presidency is a testament to the dynamism of the American political system, constantly adapting to meet the needs and challenges of the times. Who are considered the best U.S. presidents and why? Now that's a question that could stir up some lively debate. However, there are a few names that often rise to the top of the list, celebrated for their leadership, their vision, and the indelible marks they left on American history. Abraham Lincoln, the 16th president, often tops the list. His leadership during the Civil War, his commitment to preserving the Union, and his role in the abolition of slavery have solidified his place in history. His gift for rhetoric, as showcased in the Gettysburg Address, and his second inaugural address, has also made him a symbol of wisdom and eloquence. Next, we have Franklin Delano Roosevelt, the only president to serve more than 2 terms. His New Deal policies helped lift the country out of the Great Depression, while his leadership during World War II saw America emerge as a global superpower. His fireside chats, a series of evening radio addresses, showcased his ability to connect with the American people, demonstrating a novel use of media that modern presidents still emulate. And of course, there's George Washington, the country's first president. His decision to step down after 2 terms set a precedent for future presidents, while his leadership during the Revolutionary War and his role in drafting the Constitution have made him a symbol of America's founding principles. Each of these presidents faced unique challenges and opportunities, and their legacies reflect their responses to these circumstances. They weren't just leaders, but embodiments of the values, struggles, and aspirations of their time. The legacy of a president is a reflection of their leadership, their decisions, and the era in which they served. Whether it's Lincoln's resolve, Roosevelt's innovation, or Washington's principled leadership, these presidents have left an indelible mark on American history, shaping the nation we know today.